My stepmother told everyone I was broken goods after my divorce. I made sure she felt what broken really meant. The first time Diana called me broken goods was at my father's retirement party, 3 months after my divorce was finalized. She said it quietly to her book club friends while I was refilling the punch bowl, but the kitchen had that weird acoustic thing where sound carried perfectly from the dining room. I heard every word. She told them I'd driven my wife away with my career obsession, and now I was damaged merchandise that no decent woman would want. Her friends made sympathetic noises while I stood there holding a ladle, watching red punch drip back into the bowl. My father was in the backyard showing off his new grill to former colleagues, completely oblivious to his wife poisoning my reputation 20 feet away. I walked back into the dining room with the refilled bowl and made eye contact with Diana. She smiled at me with those perfectly whitened teeth and asked if I was feeling all right because I looked pale. I told her I was fine and excused myself to the bathroom where I sat on the closed toilet lid and tried to stop shaking. The marriage had ended because my ex-wife had been sleeping with her yoga instructor for 18 months, but I'd kept that detail private to protect her reputation. Nobody in my family knew the real reason, except my younger brother Lucas, who'd helped me move out of the house while she was at a wellness retreat. Diana had somehow decided the divorce was my fault and appointed herself the family spokesperson on my failed marriage. I worked as a senior civil engineer at a construction management firm, leading teams that designed infrastructure projects for municipal clients across the region. The job required 60-hour weeks during major builds and constant travel to project sites. My ex-wife, Melissa, had been a pharmaceutical sales representative who worked similar hours, and we'd built our lives around two ambitious careers. When I discovered the affair through a text message she'd forgotten to delete, I'd confronted her immediately. She admitted everything and said the instructor made her feel alive in ways I never had because I was always focused on work. I filed for divorce the next week and moved into a rental condo near my office. The whole process took 8 months and cost me $40,000 in legal fees, but I walked away with my retirement accounts intact and no alimony obligations in either direction. My father had been sympathetic in his quiet way, offering to help me move and asking if I needed anything. Diana had made comments about marriage requiring compromise and how modern men didn't understand emotional availability. I'd ignored her because engaging with Diana's opinions was like arguing with a television. She'd married my father 5 years ago, 2 years after my mother died from ovarian cancer, and immediately started redecorating everything and inserting herself into family dynamics that had worked fine without her input. The broken goods comments spread through the family faster than I expected. My aunt called the next week to ask if I was seeing a therapist to work through my intimacy issues. My cousin sent a long email about the importance of emotional connection and suggested I read some relationship books, even though I wasn't in a relationship anymore. My father's brother cornered me at a hardware store to say he'd heard I'd prioritized work over my marriage, and maybe I should consider a less demanding job. Each conversation made it clear that Diana's version of events had become the accepted family narrative. I was the workaholic husband who'd neglected his wife until she had no choice but to leave. The truth about Melissa's affair stayed buried because I'd made the mistake of taking the high road and not defending myself publicly. My brother Lucas was furious when I told him what was happening and wanted to send a group text exposing Melissa's cheating, but I stopped him. I said it wouldn't change anything and would just make me look bitter and vindictive. Diana had won the narrative war before I even realized we were fighting. 6 months later, my father invited me to Sunday dinner at their house, and I almost said no. Lucas convinced me to go because avoiding family events would just confirm Diana's story that I was bitter and damaged. I drove to their house in the suburbs and found Diana's entire extended family already there, which my father hadn't mentioned. Her sister and brother-in-law, her 2 adult daughters from her first marriage, her elderly mother, and several cousins I'd never met were crowded into the living room drinking wine and eating cheese. My father hugged me at the door and apologized for not warning me that it was a combined family dinner. Diana swept over in a flowing blue dress and announced to everyone that I was her stepson who'd just gone through a difficult divorce. She said it with the kind of sympathetic head tilt that made my skin crawl, and several people looked at me with pity. Her older daughter, Ashley, asked what I did for work, and when I explained my job, Diana jumped in to say that was probably why my marriage didn't work out. She told everyone that career-driven men often struggled to maintain healthy relationships because they couldn't balance work and family. Full story on my channel and linked below.